Hello, hello. Today, le fruit de la veille is in English. Alors, comme on a terminé par quelque chose de drôle hier, ben, allons-y. Oh, allons-y, c'est ici.
America is a land of freedom, independence, and individual thinking. But sometimes an idea comes along that's just a little different. And before you know it, whoops, you're in a cult.
Honey, where are my eggs?
Dear leader says Joe Biden took them.
The signs are crystal clear. Learn how to spot them in How to Know You Are in a Cult. First sign, good leader. For a cult to work, it needs a good leader, and a good leader is never wrong. If something bad happens like high gas prices, a recession, or even a plane crashing,
President Trump says it was Joe Biden.
he needs to be able to shift the blame. Second sign, don't question. In a cult, questioning the leader can be dangerous. The moment you think for yourself, poof, you disappear quicker than an aging wife. Third sign, loyalty wins. A good cult leader must reward loyalty. And if you're a billionaire, well, you can do whatever you want, even to the least deserved. Fourth sign, see things his way. Even if you saw things with your own eyes and ears and every shred of evidence points in one direction, if he says otherwise, see things his way. So how do you know you're in a cult? Simple. If your leader is never wrong, punishes his enemies, and lets his richest friends run amok while convincing you that everything bad is someone else's fault, well, congratulations. You are in a cult.
If you go to McDonald's, anywhere in the world, you will find French fries, or chips as you call them, and you will find that they're always made from the same potato, the russet Burbank potato. This is a potato from America that's unusually long and difficult to grow, but that's what they want, because when you're McDonald's, you like those red boxes with a little bouquet of very long chips. It looks really good, and so they insist that all their potatoes be russet Burbanks, and they further insist that they have no blemishes at all, net necrosis. And you've seen potatoes with a little brown line sometimes, or spots that comes through it. Well, McDonald's won't buy them if your potatoes have that. And the only way to eliminate that is to eliminate an aphid, and the only way to do that is with a pesticide called Monitor that is so toxic that the farmers who grow these potatoes in Idaho won't venture outside into their fields for 5 days after they spray. When they harvest their potatoes, they have to put them in these atmosphere-controlled sheds the size of a football stadium because they're not edible for 6 weeks. They have to off-gas all the chemicals in them.
Eh oui, c'est comme ça. That's it. Alors, où est-ce que je suis là?
Noam Chomsky has said that propaganda is to democracy as violence is to dictatorship. Democratic nations need propaganda, much more than dictatorships do. That's because in an authoritarian society, a critic can be silenced with little effort through torture or murder. Because democratic societies have free speech, their economic and political systems are vulnerable to public opinion. It is for this reason that propaganda is so essential to preserving private power concentration in societies like ours. The public is a threat to power. Therefore, the public must be indoctrinated with values that promote and protect the existing capitalist power structure. While it's possible for the public to survive without capitalism, capitalism wouldn't survive without public support. The power of propaganda was first grasped after World War I. The American public was not interested in joining that war. In fact, Woodrow Wilson was reelected partly on strength of his slogan, "He kept us out of war." To get the mass population on board, a Committee on Public Information, also known as the Creel Committee, was formed to change the public's attitude. Leading figures in American public relations, Edward Bernays and Walter Lippmann, used all of their skills to turn public opinion around. Bernays later bragged about how people would swallow the tall tales he helped make up about bloodthirsty Germans, marveling. The most fantastic atrocity stories were believed. It didn't take long for the business class to recognize propaganda's potential. They wondered if it would be possible to turn worker opinions around in the same way. Decades later, Bernays wrote that business realized the public could now be harnessed to their cause, as it had been harnessed during the war to the national cause. And the same methods could do the job. What were those methods? Alex Carey makes it clear in his book, Taking the Risk Out of Democracy. According to Carey, creating effective propaganda is simply a matter of manipulating emotionally charged symbols or ideas. Instead of guilt by association, it's something more like pride by association. The trick is to associate the capitalist free enterprise system with the things that American people love, like loyalty, patriotism, and freedom. Business wins the propaganda war by conflating the American dream with sacred symbols like the Statue of Liberty, the flag, American individualism, and democracy. Propaganda helps create an imaginary union of private profits with the public's well-being in people's minds. Things that threaten business profits like regulation, taxation, liberalism, or communism are smeared with profane, negative imagery. Carey writes, by associating welfare provisions and other selected government interventions with socialism, communism, and conversely the free enterprise system with loyalty, patriotism, freedom, the American dream, the American way of life, propagandists are doing no more than manipulating appropriate satanic and sacred symbols. The idea is simple. Everything that helps business is associated with the emotionally charged things that we love about America. Everything that could successfully challenge the stranglehold business has on our society, like unions or active government oversight, is villainized as tyrannical, oppressive, and so subversive that it threatens everything we love. Communism is, of course, the biggest of big bads in this century-long propaganda campaign. It's easy to forget sometimes that a huge source of the strength and power of business and the rich is the state support they get from our government. If and when business or the rich should lose that support, if government isn't there to back them up and fight for their needs instead of ours, the rich can be as weak and helpless as a newborn kitten. If propaganda is all they have, it's possible to ignore it or even laugh at it. Our American ancestors, the ones who survived the Great Depression, had some really amazing armor protecting them from the propaganda of the rich and business. That armor was their own lived experience. Our grandparents and great-grandparents could see with their own eyes the difference between their interests and the interests of the elite classes. They knew that there was no shared benefit between the shareholders of U.S. Steel or Standard Oil or any bank and themselves. They could see from their own lives that helping the rich did nothing for the public. This is the strongest armor that exists, and if you're living in America today, you may possess that armor yourself. If you lived through the financial collapse of 2008 or the COVID-19 pandemic, you probably have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about.
Eh bien, dites donc. Ah.
Wow, he really just went out and said it. Jeff Bezos, a plutocrat, the second richest man on earth, the guy who runs Amazon, also runs the Washington Post, one of the most influential newspapers in the United States, arguably in the entire world. And yesterday he made an announcement which confirmed all of the things that many of us have long said. Just like Donald Trump at the moment is taking away all of the pretenses about US imperialism. Truly, we live in the age of they're saying the quiet part out loud. And what he said underlines why we don't live in a real democracy, and never have, no matter what we've been told. In a tweet yesterday, Bezos said he'd shared a note with the Washington Post team, as he calls them, about a change coming to our opinion pages. In his words, this is what he says. We are going to be writing every day in support and defence of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. He goes on to say, there was...
Ouais, ben voilà. Bon, je vais vous laisser pour aujourd'hui. C'était en anglais et demain, ce sera à nouveau en français.